Well, good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of our presiding officer for today's ceremony, Colonel Sean Willis, I would like to welcome you to today's ceremony. I am Lieutenant Colonel Jeremy Geiger and am honored to serve as your narrator for today's event. Today, the men and women of the United States Air Force pay special tribute and celebrate the career and accomplishments of Lieutenant Colonel Warren Connell on the occasion of his retirement after 28 years of service to the United States Air Force. Please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the national anthem and posting of the colors by the Wright-Patterson Base Honor Guard.
Stand by. Colors. Attention. Hut. Forward. Arms. Stay. Check. Forward. Arch. Colors. Hold. Present. Arch. Forward. Arch. Colors. Color stern. Arch.
Thank you, Wright-Patterson Base Honor Guard. Please be seated. It is my pleasure to recognize some special guests with us today. Please hold all applause until after we have recognized everyone. A warm welcome to Warren's parents, Jack and Don Connell, brother Ed Connell, girlfriend Tisa Robbins, and close friends Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey and Jamie Dennison. Please also welcome our distinguished visitors attending today from the Air Force Institute of Technology. We've got Colonel Chris Rondeau, Air University, DAT 1 Commander and AFIT Director of Staff, Colonel Sean Willis, Associate Dean for the School of Engineering and Management, and all of our AFIT department heads. And finally, we extend a special welcome to our entire virtual audience. This is streaming on YouTube today. Thank you. And thank you to all the veterans, past and present, current and former senior leaders, community partners, and all other distinguished visitors and friends who are joining us today to celebrate Lieutenant Colonel Connell. We are extremely grateful you could join us today. It is my pleasure to start by introducing our presiding officer, Colonel Sean Willis.
Are we on? Wow, this is kind of neat. I didn't realize, it was YouTube. So I get to go home tonight and tell my kids I'm now a YouTube influencer. So that will really significantly raise me in their opinion. But the time that we have now is a pretty special moment. If you think about a retirement from a lifetime of serving the country here, we've got 28 years of service. This is a big event, right? A life-changing event. And I looked up briefly just a couple numbers in the Air Force. So in March of this year, 2024, active duty members, there's 321,000-ish, 321,103 active duty officers, or active duty military in the Air Force. 64,255 of those were officers, and of that, 9,360 are lieutenant colonels. So when you do the going to be a huge contributor based on what he's done here. You look at that and say it's time to move on, but it's a good time for us to take a look and see what he's done throughout his career and celebrate that with him here. So I have a few notes that I'd like to go over, and as we look at some of the things that Warren's done in his career, I think you'll see a couple themes coming out. One is, I guess I should have known this more, but this theme of working with computers, with IT. So when I first got here a little over a year ago, met Warren, he's one of the deputies, and it seemed like every time we had one of the deputy meetings, like, man, this stupid computer system, we can't figure out how, if you look at how many different ways we get information, we've got 3 different email accounts, I think. We've got Teams, 2 different Teams accounts, plus the carrier pigeons, right? But Warren's like, hey, I got you. Just do this, and he tells us all how to. I still haven't done it, but it was pretty. He's got. I'll send the details out, and always he's keeping us in line and how to do this. Well, going through his career history, I'm like, well, of course that makes sense now. This is what you do, right? So he's in the systems engineering department, but as I've learned here working with the systems engineers folks, that they haven't all gone to school and gotten their PhD in systems engineering. They cover a broad range of different career fields and then apply our systems engineering tools to those career fields. So we've got experts from across the various technical domains. So I'm very impressed. So it doesn't surprise me here when I look through to see what he's done. So I mentioned 28 years. So in 1996, he was off to basic training. Here just slightly shorter than that throughout basic training. So he came in, enlisted, went through basic training, tech school, and his first job was at Offutt Air Force Base there in Nebraska. So that's the home of STRATCOM, Strategic Commands, one of the 11 unified commands for the military complex there, right, not just Air Force. So they're in charge of nuclear deterrence for the nation. They're in charge of information. They're in charge of the data information grid as well. So very important command. And while Warren was there, coming in as an airman, he is the software quality assurance. So that's the person then that makes sure that all your software is good, right? So if you've ever worked with quality assurance, man, I hope I pass, So I've done that before as an enlisted troop. All my stuff going through QA, you're just like sweating a little bit. I know I did it right, but here's Warren and his words, the policy police here, making sure that things were done right. And so this software quality analysis, you're going to see another theme. So not just the IT, but it's this theme that it reaches out across either one of our national tools, such as the nuclear enterprise that we're about to see, or one of our Air Force-wide systems. So he's making effects throughout the entire organization and not just in his little bit. So he was the software quality assurance person for, it's SACS DTS, and I'm sure you all know what that, I see a couple heads nodding. I did not know exactly what that stood for, but it's the Strategic Automated Command and Control System, Data Transmission Subsystem. So as Warren explained it, 1960s era system. This is what all the entire nuke alert system is broadcast with. So a critical structure to make sure that we have up and running for the defense of the nation in that nuclear deterrence mission. While he was there, he also moved into data programming, database programming, and then he was responsible for all the configuration changes to the network. And I'm sure you've all had that as well when you have your updates and your upgrades and you think, wow, everything was working yesterday, but we got an upgrade and it didn't. So again, a very important piece to the whole infrastructure there, and that's what Warren was working on. You know, some of these systems we're familiar with now, Predator system, but back then, Warren went TDY to build there north of Sacramento in California, and in support of the Predator mission there. It was at the time a very new mission, but he was a part of getting that kicked off. And then you saw the honor guard come up, very sharp-looking folks, right? So Warren spent 2 years as part of the base honor guard there, and I can tell you that's an important role. They do well. You saw what they did here with the colors, but also funerals. They also do other functions that then go out and they're the representatives for the Air Force. So this is the face. This is what the public sees, and being able to put on a good face for the Air Force there. So very important role both with this mission and then taking time out of this extra time to promote the Air Force in that way. And you got to wear a really cool uniform. You saw how sharp they looked, right? They look good. So the other theme, so I mentioned this theme of IT, this theme of reaching out across the network, and there's one more theme that you'll see, and that's being awarded for the work that he's done. So over and over again, his bosses have seen, hey, he's done great work. So here, while he's there at Offutt, 2 times Airman of the Quarter at the squadron level, 1 time Airman of the Quarter at the wing level, and then he was the Group Comm and Info Professional of the Year. So again, highly regarded throughout, and I can say with my time that I've worked with Warren, that doesn't surprise me at all. So in 2000, he moved to Kelly Air Force Base, which is now part of San Antonio, the Joint Base San Antonio there, Lackland basically. Again, doing computer stuff here. He's part of the Air Force Information Warfare Center. And he was the system admin for intrusion detection system collection and correlation of cyber attacks, right, and cyber alerts for every MAGCOM across the Air Force. So again, having that reach across the entire organization. And when I say organization, I mean at the Air Force level. He was also a key part of supporting sensor deployment to Southwest Asia and the build-up to Iraqi freedom. So right around that time, you know, we all remember that time. So he was part of that build-up. And then again, awarded different accolades. So he was the Directorate NCO of the Year. So here he had sewed on Staff Sergeant by this time, but picked up for NCO of the Year. And then he was also 2 times Center Technician of the Year, or of the Quarter, a Senior Technician of the Quarter, again, getting these awards. And so while he was here, he applied for this program called the Airman Education and Commissioning Program. Again, a competitive process, and this is where the Air Force says, okay, hey, you've got some credit hours, you've got to have taken some credit hours, but if you can finish your degree in 3 years or less, then we'll go ahead and send you off to school. You're going to be, if you're not an E5 already, we'll promote you to E5. He was already an E5. So he's getting active duty, E5 pay, goes and gets his degree. So he goes back to Nebraska because he's already taken some classes from there. And he gets his Bachelor of Science there in computer engineering with a minor in computer science and mathematics. So again, going back to our folks in systems engineering, they have the systems engineering expertise, but they're also experts in other fields. And you can see Warren's background's lending to that. And so then part of the deal is you get a nice, great time at officer training school in Maxwell Air Force Base, Alabama. So you get to go down there and do a little bit more marching, but then you come out of there commissioned as second lieutenant. So then he goes to his first duty station as a commissioned officer in 2007 over here at NASIC, the National Air and Space Information Center. So he's been part of the comm world, and now he's part of the intelligence world here. So he's still being able to apply all of the things that he's an expert at. So here he's a systems admin and developer for the imagery analysis squadron. He created a production database that was used by the entire center. So again, having these far-reaching effects that go across more than just going in, keeping his head down, doing his job, and going home, but doing what's best for the organization, making big impacts. And that's what we want to see of our airmen, is making big impacts, because we're in the defense of our nation business, and we need people that make big impacts, and that's what Warren was doing. While he was here, he also started doing some project management work, and then as a first lieutenant, he became the director of operations, essentially the director of operations for the innovation squadron there. So if you're not familiar with the director of operations, this is going to be your hardest working person pretty much there, because this is the person that makes sure everything happens. So the boss has a vision. Okay, the director of operations is going to make sure people are doing that. Problems come in. Director of operations is going to figure out how to solve those problems. So as a first lieutenant, he was picked to do that, a very important role. And then he also deployed during that time to Djibouti out there, northern tip of the Horn of Africa there. And he was the Intel System Support Lead for all of the Horn of Africa. So not only doing what he's an expert at, but going out and supporting the warfighter in a forward location. And again, with being picked up for awards, he was the two-time squadron CGOQ, so that's Company Grade Officer of the Quarter, and the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency Company Grade Officer of the Year, so that's NGA, a big award there, so very impressive. All the while, he's doing his master's degree over at Wright State, and he gets his master's degree during this time in 2011 in computer engineering. So staying fairly busy. I bet you didn't have a lot of free time during that time. So then, next he, in 2011, goes to Hanscom up in Massachusetts. And while he's there, he's in the mission planning division. He led a team on security certification and accreditation of mission planning. Terribly exciting, but it's used on, the name sounds terribly exciting. I think the job is better than the name. But it was across every platform that's in the Air Force. So he's in that division. He's leading the team for the certification and accreditation. We know how important that is. And then he then wrote the mission planning, anti-tamper, and protection plan. He wrote it and got it approved, right? So that, if you've worked in situations like that, you know the effort to get that done, and then to get it approved, and then to get it implemented. And so he was doing that. And as a CGO, as a captain at the time, but he's got experience, and he's taking in the CGOs and he's mentoring them as well while he's there. And then he gets, at that point, selected for active faculty pipeline. So now we're starting to see the direction he's going to take to end up here. And so he goes back to school, and as he explained to me, he was picked up for systems engineering, economics, econometrics. It's some nice, cool name. But when he George Mason there, I guess they've got a good program in that. When he got there, he changed it up a bit and got his PhD in information technology, kind of staying in line with his background. And his dissertation was on quantifying cyber moving target defenses. So we're hearing about this a lot right now, and it's a very relevant and important piece of keeping our cyber structure safe. So Warren's right there in it and understands all that. So instead of coming directly here to AFIT, though, he went off to Crystal City, just moved in a little closer to DC, and worked in the F-35 SPO. F-35, the most expensive acquisition in our nation's history. And as part of that SPO, he was System Program Office. This is where they're running the F-35 acquisition. So he was the Operational Test Deputy. And so his first year, he spent the whole first year focused on finalizing that operational test readiness review, so that then they could move into the IOT&E, the initial operations test and evaluation. Once they got through that, then he picked up the cyber test lead position, ensuring that all the cyber tests for IoT were planned and executed throughout that F-35. So again, that's a big piece. If you're familiar with our systems of today and what happens with how our systems are so intricately controlled, to have a cyber attack to come in and take control of one of our F-35s would be bad news. So ensuring the safety of those vehicles. And then 2020, he finally makes it here to AFIT into the Systems Engineering Department, Assistant Professor of Systems Engineering. And then he's now taking all those lessons he learned both in the F-35 SPO and throughout his career in mentoring and teaching both fundamentals of systems engineering and agile software systems engineering, and using that, his experience, to now train and educate the next generation of warfighters coming through, both civilian and military that come through here, and using that experience to do that, being able to have the understanding of the technology and of that area, but also having the experience working in it. And I saw him crack a couple smiles up here, and it does happen if you know Warren. So there, you know, well, first time I met him, he is a serious guy, and he gets things done, and I learned that. But I've also heard him joke around, and for those that don't know, it does happen. It's not that overt, but he can let you have it a couple different ways, and it takes you a minute to realize that he just got one over on you. I will say that I really appreciated Warren. When I first got here, you come into a new organization and you've got to figure out what's going on, and you're trying to get in your stride, and you're charging forward, and you're making some missteps all over the place. And I met with the deputies a lot, and I rely on the deputies. And Warren was right there to help me out. He helps out the team. I've never seen him not help out the team. An incredible team player. And as it was coming time, to start thinking about, okay, how are we going to put your package together for your promotion? And he talked to me about, well, I think I'm going to retire. And I told him, and I still believe it, I think it is a loss for the Air Force. But I know that he'll continue to have that same drive for the nation. What we do is important. What Warren did is important. What Warren will do is important. It's just there comes a time when all of us will no longer wear the uniform, and that time is now for Warren. 28 years. I don't think the country could ask for more from him. Very professional, and I'm honored. When he asked me to officiate, I told him I'm very honored to officiate for you. If we had a ton of airmen, if we had more airmen throughout our nation like Warren, I think we would be doing even better. And so, Warren, I'd like to give you my thanks and wish you the best, and tell you that I'm a better person from having met you, and you've got me started on the right track here, and I really appreciate it. So we're going to miss you here. Keep in touch with us. I know you're going to do great things afterwards. But again, congratulations on this day, and thanks for making this a better place, and for making the Air Force a better place.
Thank you, Colonel Willis. Colonel Willis, can you join Lieutenant Colonel Connell at the center stage? For everyone else, please stand for the reading and presentation of the Meritorious Service Medal. Lieutenant Colonel Warren J. Connell distinguished himself in the performance of outstanding service to the United States as Assistant Professor, Graduate School of Engineering and Management, Air Force Institute of Technology, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio. As an assistant professor, he taught 13 courses to 248 students and advised 16 graduate students on research covering F-16 modification planning, large area search and rescue simulations, and multiple cybersecurity-focused topics. He also redesigned the department's Agile software course, adding material directly based on complex real-world program office scenarios. During this time, Colonel Connell also served for 2 years as deputy department head, directing operations for 29 faculty and 200 students across 4 academic programs. Colonel Connell advocated for retention of laboratory capability as a result of program realignment, ultimately preserving $1 million worth of laboratory equipment and saving $250,000 in movement and installation costs. He was central to the contact of faculty keeping the mission moving forward during a challenging transition to a new registration system. The singular distinctive accomplishments of Colonel Connell culminate in a distinguished career in the United States in the service of his country and reflect great credit upon himself and the United States Air Force. Please remain standing for the reading of the retirement orders.
Publish the order.
Attention to orders. Department of the Air Force, Washington, D.C., Special Order Number AC-011290 to Lieutenant Colonel Connell Warren J., effective 31 October 2024. You are relieved from active duty, Air Force Institute of Technology, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio, and retired from the United States Air Force 1 November 2024, after 28 years, 1 month, and 20 days of faithful and honorable duty per Air Force Instruction 36-3203 in the grade of Lieutenant Colonel by the order of the Secretary of Air Force. Please be seated.
Woo!
Colonel Willis, Colonel Connell, please come back up. We'll now present the retirement certificate. The Certificate of Retirement from the Air Force Chief of Staff, the Armed Forces of the United States of America. To all who shall see these presents, greeting. This is to certify that Lieutenant Colonel Warren J. Connell, having served faithfully and honorably, is retired from the United States Air Force on this first day of November 2024. Signed, General David W. Elvin, Air Force Chief of Staff. At this time, can Mr. and Mrs. Connell, will you please join them up here on the stage for the presentation of the Air Force Retirement Pin? The Air Force Retirement Lapel Pin is presented when one retiree retires from the Air Force after 20 years of service. Mr. and Mrs. Connell will now pin it onto Lieutenant Colonel Connell, signifying his transition from active duty to full military retirement.
Stick it in the old place. Yeah. It's not really in there unless you hit it once.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Connell. Please have a seat. It is now my pleasure to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Joe Chrisbaum, the Military Deputy for the Department of Systems Engineering and Management.
No applause needed, please. I was just asked to present the gifts today, but I wasn't asked to speak, so I'm going to take this opportunity to say a few words. Warren is he's a pretty special guy. Colonel Willis summarized it extremely well, and I didn't really know where I was going to start with this. So I decided I'm going to start with the conversation that Warren and I had yesterday in my office, his old office. He came in, sat down, and I asked him, I said, Warren, how you feeling? You're one day out. And he was like, I don't know. Haven't been sleeping very well lately. And I was like, dude, you're like less than 24 hours from retirement. Like, come on, let's get a little excited for this. Everything could have gone wrong here at this ceremony today, and it's still your day. and it's still something to celebrate, right? He left my office kind of mopey. So I started to think about it. I'm like, Colonel Willis was right. This is a huge milestone, life-changing experience. And I see my peers around me starting to retire. And even though I'm 3 years away from retirement, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm ready for it yet. And Warren's less than 24 hours away from it yet. So I understand, right? I see where you're coming from. But you can rest assured, Warren, that whatever comes after retirement, you are going to land on your feet running because you have set the bar extremely high. Colonel Willis talked about what it takes to reach the ranks that Warren has reached, and to start with in the enlisted ranks to reach that is a pretty incredible accomplishment. Only 3%, actually, historically, 3% of enlisted members go on to get their commission. Compound that with reaching lieutenant colonel and getting your PhD, right? You can see that Warren has cast his own mold in this business. And you're in great company, Warren. So rest assured that you're going to do very well. I speak on behalf of AFIT. We are very lucky to have you, and that you are a tremendous mentor and a great friend. So congratulations on your retirement. We've got a couple presentos for you. One's personal. I was going to open it up to have people donate, but I was like, no, this one's just from me. So I'm going to present that to you as well. So we have our signed frame here with most of the department folks and some again folks, but I think we might allow this for a little bit longer so we can have some more folks. I know that you're not disappearing.
Fill up the white space.
You're not turning into a pumpkin just yet, so we'll fill this up and we'll get this back to you. So, but all right. All right. So, you remember when I asked you about Warhammer?
Yeah.
So why you ask? And I had to think on the fly, and we did happen to have a student talking about Warhammer, so I started talking about that. But so this is a Lightning. Is that correct? Warhammer 40K.
I think so.
I think so. Yeah. There's a bunch of, but anyway, so we found this canvas and we made some slight modifications to it. So you're the aircraft commander on the lead aircraft there. It's got the Air Force logo there embossed in the back, and your retirement and your service dates along the right border there. And another reason why I couldn't make this open to everybody is because I put myself as aircraft commander on the lead.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Chris Palm. It is tradition that one receives a folded American flag upon their retirement from the military. The Wright-Patterson Base Honor Guard will now conduct a flag folding ceremony.
Alt. Post.
For more than 200 years, the American flag has been a symbol of our nation's unity, as well as a source of pride and inspiration for millions of citizens. Born on June 14, 1777, the Second Continental Congress determined that the flag of the United States be 13 stripes, alternating between 7 red and 6 white, and that the Union be 13 stars, white in a blue field representing a new constellation. Between 1777 and 1960, the shape and design of the flag evolved into the flag presented before you today. The 13 horizontal stripes represent the original 13 colonies, while the stars represent the 50 states of the Union. The colors of the flag are symbolic as well. Red symbolizes hardiness and valor. White signifies purity, innocence, and blue represents vigilance, perseverance, and justice. Traditionally, a symbol of liberty, the American flag has carried the message of freedom and inspired Americans both at home and abroad. In 1814, Francis Scott Key was so moved at seeing the stars and stripes waving after the British shelling of Baltimore's Fort McHenry that he wrote the words to the Star-Spangled Banner. In 1892, the flag inspired Francis Bellamy to write the Pledge of Allegiance, our most famous flag salute and patriotic oath. In July 1969, the American flag was flown in space when Neil Armstrong planted it on the surface of the moon. Today, our flag flies on constellations of Air Force satellites that circle our globe, on the fin flash of our aircraft in harm's way in every corner of the world.
Sir, on behalf of the President of the United States Air Force, and a grateful nation, please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your honorable
and faithful service. Step.
Thank you to the Wright-Patterson Base Honor Guard. Don't set yet. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to present to you for the very first time Warren Connell, Lieutenant Colonel, United States Air Force, retired.
Hold on a sec. You're going to need to get a few things out here. I haven't lost it yet. I'm actually amazed. I thought it was just going to be a matter of not if or when, but how many times I lose my you-know-what coming up here and speaking. I made it. 28 years. Not bad for a slacker kid from Wisconsin with poor time management skills that was too smart for his own good. Before I get started, I want to thank Jeremy Geiger for putting this together. You know, it's hard for me to ask people to do things for me, but yeah, he was on top of things, keeping things moving forward and stuff like that. Lieutenant Maurer doesn't even know me, but just volunteered to proffer for this. So I was, thank you. Colonel Willis for presiding. The Honor Guard for coming out. Aaron for photography. Everyone else here, or that made it online, thanks for being here. This really means a lot to me. So if you guys know me, I don't like to talk much about myself. but I hope you indulge me just this one time. So there's a story that Colonel Willis told, right? And this is a story, and it's based on all of the performance reports and the awards and everything else like that, right? The story of my career. But what I want to do is tell you the other side of the story. There's a whole story of everything that happens in between those awards and reports and everything else like that. And this is my Air Force story. So, I've got I'll name a lot of folks through here, a lot of friends and mentors to thank. And I'm sure I missed folks, but for anyone out there on the internet, or up there, just know that, if I ran into you along the way, 28 years is a long time, if I ran into you along the way or interacted with you, chances are you had an impact on me. So starting at the beginning, like why I joined. So I'll be honest with you, it wasn't for any higher purpose or sense of service or anything else like that. There was no family tradition, there was no military base around Eau Claire, Wisconsin, or anything else like that. I was a senior in high school, and I didn't do any college applications or anything else like that, or any scholarship applications. And I was like, shoot, how am I going to pay for college? Hey, the Air Force could hook me up here. And it's also ironic because part of the reason I joined the Air Force was I didn't want to do any paperwork. Yeah, life has a sense of irony here. And I'll never, and I got informed about the whole ACP program was part of the goal from the beginning. It took a little while to get qualified and get there and get to school and everything else like that. I thought I could knock it out in 4 years, but it took a while longer, right? But I'll never forget what my recruiter said, Tech Sergeant Summerdorf. He said, I don't do a hard sell for the Air Force. He said, I think the Air Force sells itself. And he left it at that. And I went back to him and was like, yeah, all right, I want to do this, right? And yeah, because I've never been responsive to like the hard sell or something like that. But yeah, and I really think that like the Air Force sells itself. So, go away to basic training, go away to tech school. My first time away on my own. I'm waking up at 4 in the morning, going to class and stuff like that. I get in trouble for like sleeping in class and leaving me a messy room. I get sentenced to remedial military training, and they do a report card. Your tech school gives you a report card afterwards once you get to your unit, right? And they say how you did and everything else like that. And my report card said this: average airman. True, yeah. And that's. For those of you who know the way that the system works, it's the nicest way they could say dirtbag without directly saying it. No, because I'm glad we're all laughing here. But the truth was I had a lot of rough edges. I had a whole heck of a lot of growing up to do. I was still emotionally immature, going to Nebraska and stuff like that. I had. There's some friends hopefully online, right? My roommate, Kevin Williams, Nick Tiernan, Shane Shurnas, Jason Atuk, there was a lot messed up. I had a lot growing up to do. And fortunately, and as you'll see here throughout my career, there's a whole lot of mentors and just amazing leaders that I was blessed to work with that I learned from along the way. So Master Sergeant Owens went on to be Chief Owens, my supervisor. More than anyone else, I think, I owe my career to him. Because he saw the potential and he saw the potential in me, and I worked my ass off for him, and I started growing up. I started, doing good work and getting reward for it. I worked in the office with Tech Sergeant Toy as well. Chief, he went on to be Chief Toy too. He might be online. Sergeant Caraccio went on to get commissioned. Right, sharpest troop ever. Right, and I chatted with him shortly before I went to OTS, because I was, not in a good mental state for OTS, just psyched out. So, those folks, the airmen in the honor guard, right? The good friend Jason Gargan, who I met in the honor guard, we still chat to this day too, and he's doing just amazing things out there too. So then, the next job, right? Air Force Information Warfare Center. I actually, I got my feet wet in cybersecurity there, and I actually did get to see the world. I went to Germany, went to Korea, Hawaii 3 times, New York City, and it was, a great job. Really started to kind of blossom here at this point. I put on staff sergeant relatively early in my career. I had my first troop. The only direct report I've ever had in my career. Airman Kamada. He's not with us anymore either. And, I actually spoke with his family, and I told him this too, but he was something. I only had one troop, and I had the one that needed the most work. And so I was working my butt off trying to keep him going along. And again, mentors and friends, right? Tech Sergeant America, who kind of told me, hey, this is what you need to do as a supervisor, sort of thing, right? Friends, Kevin Williams, different Kevin Williams. I've known 2 of them now. Craig Rawlings. And so along the line here, I finally finish all the classes. I start the ACP process, and so we had Senior Master Sergeant Slater, who went on to be Chief Slater, and as part of the whole package process, I knew I had to get through him. He was the obstacle. Like, if he didn't let me go, then he was the hurdle I had to get past. So I had a high bar to clear with Sergeant Slater there. He told me, after winning the first couple Technician of the Quarter awards, he says, all right, I don't want you winning those awards anymore. I want you winning NCO of the Year, NCO of the Quarter, NCO of the Year awards. Because he knew, hey, I'm focusing on the technical things, but what I really need to be doing is all the whole person stuff for NCO. Cynthia Vance, who worked at the education office, who held my hand through that whole process. And at the end of it, I had 2 folders that encapsulated, they seemed like so much information at the time, 8 years of my career, all in just 2 folders, all my academic records, sent to AFIT, putting in for the application, stuff like that. And thank you to Colonel Nichols and Colonel Thompson, who kind of, who went to bat for me and had trust in me and signed off. Said, yeah, you know what? Yeah, we think this guy might be a good officer. Yeah, I think we're good here for the program. Went on to University of Nebraska, Omaha, going to school, and I've told everybody this multiple times, getting paid to go to school is the best job in the Air Force, and that's absolutely true. Still to this day, this was the best job I ever had in the Air Force. Thank you to Professor Sash, who was my first professor there, Professor Detloff, who just retired, I think, Dr. Chen, who's still there. The mentorship they had, just even as an undergrad, right? Just learning from them, and special shout out to Jeff Falkenberg, who was my lab partner on the senior design project. He was in the ACP program as well, going through stuff, and we were a great team. He was a wizard with the hardware and laying out the circuit boards and getting stuff put together, and I was the coding guy, and we went best senior design projects and stuff like that. And you know how you know you're old, because so we went through, got our bachelor's and got commissioned the same year and stuff like that. And just last year, his son Dylan, raise your hand. Where are you at? There you go. So his son got here commissioned through the same ROSI detachment, I believe, last year, and came here as a brand new accession is here at AFIT. So the next generation is already here. That's how I know I'm getting old. So I did commission through OTS. However, the way the ACP program is structured at the time, I was actually in ROTC. So I was in ROTC for a year as essentially a sophomore, as a sophomore. And hey, you're a prior enlisted guy. Hey, we're going to give you a flight to run. I ran a flight, and you go to field training between the sophomore and junior years, as the ROTC folks know. And the ROTC folks know that that's a crucible. They run you hard through, for field training there. They ask a lot of you, At Ellsworth, they made me, again, hey, you're prior enlisted, we're going to make you the student squadron commander with multiple flights to, you get yelled at for more stuff. And, they had the PT tests and stuff like that, and they had additional requirements on top of the PT test standards as the one that we do today, but I missed the run by 6 seconds, 12:36, because I was never a fast athlete or anything else like that. Failed the PT test. And you get a retake, so you do the retake, a week or so later, right? But they run you so hard there, and I was physically and started to become just emotionally broken, right? I had tendinitis. I was diagnosed with tendinitis. I was breaking down, bruises on my legs from the obstacle course and stuff like that, and I totally failed the second test, and I was removed from training, kicked out of ROTC, sent home. They confiscated my uniforms and everything else like that. It was a low point. Luckily, detachment commander Colonel Worsig, and then the incoming det commander Colonel Ted Spencer went to bat for me. The ACP program was changing to where you just were a civilian and you went to OTS at the end. They rolled me into the new version of the program. And so I tell folks that could have been the end right there. Or at least, I was almost resigned to be like, you know what, that's fine. I can go back to being Sergeant Connell, and maybe go this route or something like that. Still get a bachelor's degree, I don't know. But, with the grace of God and a couple colonels, I got another chance. And it's, so many second chances I've had. So moving on, OTS, right? A couple years later, finish out. Colonel Spencer's working out with me, taking time to work out with me and make sure that I'm actually, in good physical condition. I'm actually, when I get there in OTS and, 3 months of clean living, I'm actually in the best shape of my life. But, again, the mental stuff, the mental things there, I literally did not sleep the first night. And the second day, you're getting there, and you fresh start, and you're getting yelled at the whole time. And the next day, I wanted to quit. I was gonna SIE, like, you know what? Nope, this is not for me. I was gonna quit. I was just waiting for the right opportunity to quit. And Student Squadron Commander Major Miller comes and does a presentation, and he is all fired up. And I kind of realized, you know what? In OTS, OTS is not set up for you to fail. Most folks do make it through. It's a grind, but most folks do make it through. The only way to really fail is to do something heinous, like commit a crime or something like that. Well, okay, I can do that, right? So it was still hard all the way through. It never got easier, but it got better. I failed a couple leadership exercises, the team obstacle course thing, pass them on the retakes. My flight commander, after witnessing one of them, showed me he's like, so here's what happened, right? Have you ever heard of Leroy Jenkins? And I'm like, yes, sir. I'm aware. Like, yes, the way I ran my team on that obstacle was like Leroy Jenkins, and just calm down a little bit, think it through, execute, keep things under control, and don't let things get out of your control. And I made it through. So I finally did it. Graduated OTS. Probably one of the greatest days in my career up to that point in the Air Force. I'd reached the mountaintop, right? Reached the pinnacle. So, but now what? So I get assigned here to NASIC, and let's see here. Made a lot of friends at NASIC from the CGOs. Brianne Morris, Angela Perez-Castle. I chatted with, PC. I chatted with her last year, and she had retired a few years ago too, right? And she said, when it came to the whole decision to retire, right? She was like, it was the right decision. She was like the best decision, but she said the hardest thing was getting the courage to push the button. And because I was kind of still on the fence about this point last year, right? So it took some thinking to kind of finally commit to pushing the button there. And let's see. the Uno crew, the NASIC Uno lunch crew, Sharon and Mary, Roxanne, Chris, and Shane. Yeah. And then a circle of friends, Donnie, Wes, Brian. We're all as thick as thieves there. But most of all, he's in the front row. So usually I meet like one or two folks per assignment that are into the same crazy stuff that I am, right? It's not often you make a friend that lasts for a long time that's into like a lot of the crazy stuff you're into. So since 2008, right, you have a friend and you keep in touch, and like not only do they know where all the bodies are buried, they probably helped you bury some of them. So
I haven't retired yet.
I'm not giving specifics. But yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for coming, Jeff. I've been out to 2-year change of commands, and you preside over my promotion, stuff like that, and it means a lot. And whatever you do next, I'll be there for you. So.
Sure, I guess you're invited.
I'm going to come anyway. Yeah. Oh, in 3 weeks, I forgot to mention, there's 3 weeks, there's a Mushroom Head concert we got to go to in Columbus. All right? All right. So meanwhile, though, so right, I got stress at work building up, right, because there's all the other additional responsibilities, and, you look at me, and I'm kind of relatively successful on the outside, but deep down inside, I'm still kind of dying on the inside. I'm sick and tired. I have this feeling of impending doom, and some other folks appeared in my life, that kind of showed me, the existence of, some whatever higher power working in my life or something like that. Alan Bryant, Chuck Knobb, T.R. Taylor, who I credit with saving my life, because if I hadn't met him on that one night, I don't know how far down I would have gone. So, I owe them a debt of gratitude too. So again, I'm a constantly work in progress here, trying to fix things on the inside here. Djibouti, my time as a comm officer, it was running a crew of Navy ITs, which was a learning experience. My NCOIC, IT1 Franklin, learned a lot from her, and even Commander Esau. He was probably the grumpiest, crustiest Mustang Navy officer you could imagine, but I learned a lot from him. I don't know if Trula's online, but Trula Gann, a big friend from that assignment. Working at NASIC, was actually assistant director of operations, because you can't make a lieutenant a DO officially. But there was no one left. They deployed everybody, or everyone else is doing something. But thanks to Mr. Sherry and Dr. Atkins for having faith in me and letting me help run the show there. Moving on to mission planning. So my boss John Kaz, thanks to him for letting me mentor the CGOs. Because they kind of, the new lieutenants, they kind of needed it. Skip Walsh, the deputy chief engineer, for his mentorship. My certification team, especially John Carano and Larry Griggs. And then again, you run into folks that you meet multiple times. A chance meeting in the parking lot. You meet so Ben Fogarty, who came from out of town to be here. Got another nerdy pastimes in common. Thanks for coming out. He risked. I was like, who the heck are you? And he risked. He's coming in from Whiteman, staying with me, risking life and limb from allergies of the cats and stuff like that. So, and then one day in mission planning, I get a call from the developmental team. They don't normally call you after they do your vectoring thing. And it was Lieutenant Colonel Hastreiter from here at AFIT. And he says, hey, you have a really good looking record. Have you considered AFIT, faculty pipeline? And to be honest, I really hadn't. I did a non-thesis master's. I was not like a real academic. I did well in classes and stuff like that, but it kind of planted the seed there. At this point, I'm at 17 years in, and I'm like, hey, this is an opportunity to kind of like set up the end game, come here, come back to Dayton, and give something back. So I went for it and got picked up for the faculty pipeline. Going to GMU, I've told folks this. The first half of the PhD program was piece of cake because it was structured coursework. I could crush all my classes. But then once it got into unstructured coursework, right, where you got to do research and kind of work on your own and be a self-starter, I wasn't really great at that still. And Dr. Albanese, thanks. He had a lot of patience with me. Dr. Jajodia, the center chief, but really I think more than anyone else here, Dr. Danny Minash. I finally met someone who I actually had a good working relationship with, and we would like exchange emails at all hours, doing calculations and hammering out papers and stuff like that. And if it wasn't for him, I don't know if I would have succeeded at the PhD. So the plan was I was supposed to come here, right? And then again, sometimes the Air Force has a different change of plans. I still don't know what exactly happened with who's and what billet, Dr. G, but there wasn't a spot for me, so they said, all right, well, we're just going to we're going to keep you in the area and find something else for you to do for 3 years before you come here. So didn't come to NAFIT right away. You did the F-35 JPO. And I think the OT team that I was on for that year was like the best team I'd ever been on. Because there was 4 of us, right? Espo, Luke Esposito, Juggy Banks, Wiz Winnell, and we were 100% focused on getting all the prep ready for that major briefing, not congressional, but SAF AQ briefing and stuff like that. Our Lockheed counterpart, Hans Gant, another retired colonel, great to work with. Colonel Stinger Peary gave the brief, but we put all the work into it. And then overnight, we complete that milestone, and our work doubled overnight. Because not only do we need to, all right, now we need to execute these tests and shepherd those through, but we also had to do follow-on OT planning, which we had been ignoring for the last couple of years. So we're behind the 8 ball there. And Hatrick Ono comes on the team, and kind of work for him and Bam Bam Weiss, the test director. Yep, Jeff knows him. Yep. And then there I kind of grow into my own as I'm kind of doing the OT stuff, and then also become the cyber test lead. And so executing those cyber tests, they don't execute themselves. There needs to be a lot of planning and herding of cats required to make that happen, right? And so we got some Det 6 folks here online, Coin and Echo, and I think Thor's online too, and Petal might be online. But getting those tests put together and stuff like that, very challenging time, because at the same time as I'm stuck in the middle between multiple stakeholders, Director of Operational Testing and Evaluation, Lockheed Martin, my program office, the various different test units and stuff like that. And I all want something different, and no one wants the same thing. I'm trying to get everyone to kind of move forward and agree on something. And oh, by the way, it's 2020, so COVID's happening. And so we're doing this all remote and trying to make this all happen. But we pulled it off. I didn't get to see the end of it, but I understand that the groundwork I laid got us through, right? Right, guys? We get it? I hope we did. So I come here at AFIT, and this was a rough transition, right? Because it's during COVID, and I was chatting, right? Like Jeremy got here the same time as I did, and Paul got here the same time as I did, but I didn't know you guys. It was real hard getting integrated with the whole work from home thing, because it's not how I kind of operate, right? I tend to, go visit people's desks and chat with them to kind of work like that. But it's my program chair, Amy Cox. I'm not going to insult you by saying like an older sister, like an older sister, right? The cool older sister that shows you the ropes, maybe buys you a beer or something like that, right? A lot of thanks to you for working with you, and then I know you're gonna kick butt, and it was a pleasure working with you, Amy. The deputies, John Stubbs, learned a lot from him. Then the previous deputy, also Justin Deloret, and then how I became deputy. So it was really just proximity, because I was sitting in the front office, and I was the only poor son of a gun that didn't say no. That's the truth though, and it's why did I come here in the first place? It was to give something back, right? To be of service. So yeah, in this last 2 years in the job as deputy, thanks to all the deputies that are here. I see Chris Weimer, Jim Sattler couldn't be here. He's at TAP class. I really modeled everything that I do based on the way Jim operated in the deputies meetings, as he was kind of like the outspoken. And then when he left, I was like, okay, yep, let's kind of show the new deputies the ropes, sort of thing. Colonel Rondo, when he was the dean of students, right, he was part of our misfit bunch. Colonel Fee, and then Colonel Willis. Again, when you got here, Colonel Willis, it was kind of like a real change of pace. You got here, and I was like, yeah, you know what? Let's help the new guy out, and I'm glad we were able to work with each other and learn from each other. I owe a lot to my program chairs in the department. They do all the hard work, the actual hard work, right? Ben, Danny, Clay, Mike, Jeremy, Amy, and then also the front office who keeps things working smoothly. Alyssa, Aaron, Jen, and then finally, Dr. G. So I already said, this isn't the best job I've had, right? Actually going to school is the best job, but I will say, Dr. G, you're the best boss I've ever had to work for, because I worked for a lot of civilians that weren't necessarily, really in tune with, the way the military stuff works, but at this point, in my career, I kind of knew, right, hey, this is how I sort of operate, and this is how I kind of lead and manage, and you let me kind of do my own thing, and we kind of had our lanes, and I think we were a great team, and I think you're the best boss that I've ever had. So that brings us to today. So there's a handful of people I haven't mentioned yet, because this Air Force story is bookended by some important people, both in the past and in the future. So I told you the story about over 28 years. I've been molded and shaped by everybody. But underneath that, there had to be some foundation to work with. So mom and dad, here's where I lose it. Raised me to know right from wrong, instilled some sort of work ethic. And it took me such a long time to appreciate it. Years and years. But I got just a small token for you guys if you want to come on up. One coin. I got one in my pocket. All right. This is for you, Mom.
I didn't use my hanky there. Yeah, the famous department coin that we did.
And then one more thing here. So, and I lost the card. So I got to ad lib. So, or is this the card? No, this is the card. Okay. So I also mentioned my career, my life has been defined by these twists and turns along the way, right? You set out and you think this is going to be the path, and it is the path. But the way you take to get there has a lot of twists and turns and dead ends and turnarounds and whatever. But along the way, I met Tisa, and I think I finally found happiness in a true partnership. So come on up, Tisa. So for the next few months, I plan on doing absolutely nothing here in the area, but eventually I'll be relocating to D.C. If Tisa had her way, I'd probably be relocating sooner rather than later. But here you go. Traditional gift. But sometime here in a few months here, we're gonna start a new adventure, and I don't know what's gonna happen. But Tisa, what are we gonna what's gonna happen? What's the word?
Have fun.
Let's find out together. All right, that's all I got. Again, thanks for everybody for being here. I didn't really crack a whole lot. That's all right, but yeah, let's get out of here. After party, receiving line, after party, King's table, all that good stuff.
In appreciation for his contribution to the Air Force and its mission, the men and women of the United States Air Force are proud to have served with Lieutenant Colonel Connell and assure him that he will always be a valuable member of the Air Force family, even in retirement. We wish Warren every success in his future endeavors. Colonel Willis, Colonel Connell, please take center stage. And everyone, please stand for the singing of the Air Force song and departure of the official party.
I'm going to yell it.
We go into the wild blue yonder, climbing high into the sun. Here they come, swinging to meet our thunder. Adam boys, give her the gun, give her the gun. Hey! Down we dive, starting our flames from under. Off with one hell of a roar. We live and take over down and face. Hey! Nothing can stop the U.S. Air Force. This concludes our retirement ceremony. Please join Colonel Willis in congratulating Lieutenant Colonel Connell in a receiving line located in the lobby at the back of the auditorium. And then please join all of us at the reception hosted at King's Table at 4:30. Thank you for attending and have a great day.
Yell Air Force song in the crowd too.
Yep.